It'll come in a second, few seconds. That's it. Just go sit in the chair. You can see here when it shows up.
I don't want to touch it again.
You don't need it. Okay. Just make sure that the frame is still up.
All set? Shall we go?
It will just go to the get started.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviyam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. This table is off center. I hope that you may have to redo the camera. Thank you. Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padambu Janmane Savilasa Mahamoha Graha Grasaika Karmane. So let's start with the enunciating verse number 46, 47, and 48. Let's do three of them. Number 46 is Tritayam apitam muktva. Tritayim apitam muktva. Paraspara virodhinim Akhandam Satchidanandam Mahavakyena Lakshyate. Soyam ityadi vakyeshu Virodhat tadidantayoho Tyagena bhagayoreika Ashrayo lakshyate yatha Maya vidye vihayaivam upadhi parajivayoho akhandam satchidanandam param brahmaiva lakshyate. So the topic that is under discussion at this stage of the text is it's about the Mahavakya Tattvamasi, which, as you know, is the component necessary for us to understand ourselves in the terms of Shruti. Shruti means a reliable authority. So Shruti means a reliable authority, someone that you can submit to and have absolutely no doubt about it. It's not like, I don't know about this person, maybe he's right, he's good, maybe he's not. Not like that. You're absolutely certain that what comes from a person is totally reliable. So this is what is called Shruti. So the Shruti here means the one which is heard from the very beginning of the creation, all the way from Parameshwara, as we saw in the ceremony the other day, and the one which is not man-made. This is an important thing. We are very unique in that sense. This is called Aparusheya. What's the problem with Aparusheya? Several problems. One is that this cannot be discovered by a person. Why cannot be dismissed by a person? Because in order to discover something by a person, the person must be real. So the person has to be a real vastu, because then you say, you know what, I'm inquiring into it. I'm looking into things and so on. So there the I as the person is firm, that's there. What you are looking for may not be firm, but at least you are there. This isn't like that. Why not? Because in order to reveal the truth about it, even the person has to disappear. So therefore, this is an advanced topic that one should really look into, but I'm just giving you the basics of it, that any school of thought which has been created by human beings cannot be the truth. Cannot be the truth. Why? Because the very genesis of the inquiry is based on a false person. So the whole thing is not really there. This is one reason. There are two reasons. The second reason is that anything which is created by a human being must have an agenda. It must have some reason. And the most important agenda is to make the person feel good. That I am doing something that no one has done it, I'm very smart, even though it is supposed to be good for others. It's not as though you are cheating someone. That isn't the object. That's we're not doing it. But the fact is that the basis of the creation is to say, see how clever I am, how intelligent I am. No one, I challenge anyone to come up and, so this kind of an agenda is also false. So the very, this is what is called darpa. So the darpa means a sense of a sense of some ownership. This is me. I have to do this. That characterizes all of them. In the Shruti, this is not there. Because Ishvara is your creator. And as a creator, he wants you to really be the best that you can. It's very much like, I tell you, there is very little difference between a mother of a human being or mother of any being and Parameshwara. With the small differences, so the mother out of all of your relationships is the least without any agenda. Her love and affection for you is by far the best. She really wants the best for you. Not true of the father. The father has some agenda. Because sometimes the father says, you know, I couldn't do as well as I wanted to, but I want my children to do better than me. This is an agenda. The mother doesn't have any agenda. And it's really, you just observe. I look at my wife and how she thinks, approaches the same things completely differently. So the Ishvara has no agenda whatsoever, except for your well-being. So this characterizes what is called Shruti. So as we saw, the three conditions are Shruti, Yukti, which is logic, and Anubhava, your experience. Those three are together, they convince you. But here, the Mahavakya Tattvamasi is the voice of the Shruti, of Ishvara. So now, this is an interesting thing. As we saw that the meaning of a sentence which is implied is something which is not exactly what you see. It is something which is implied. So when you say, look at the moon between the two branches, as we saw that example, it does not literally mean that there is a branch between the two, there is a moon between the two branches. But it does the job. Does the job. So it is called Lakshana Vakya. So Lakshana Vakya means that it is an indicative sentence which, based on some steps, allows you to extend your imagination and really grasp it. So in the case of another example is that two friends were sitting there on the porch, and one of their neighbors comes kind of staggering and so on and so forth, singing a song. And so one person says, "Here comes the white horse." So in this statement, the white horse refers to a brand of whiskey. And so they said, this guy is just coming out of happy hour, and he's had a couple of drinks, and he can hardly even stand straight. So instead of saying, our neighbor number, Mr. So-and-so, he seems to be very drunk, they have an implied meaning, saying, here comes the white horse. So the white horse is what is called a Lakshana Vakya. So in that case, where these two friends are sitting on a porch, their selection of whether to use Vachya Artha or Lakshya Artha, Vachya Artha means exactly pointing out, oh, here comes my neighbor from 2 doors down from there, and so on. That is called Vachyartha. Here you dispense with it because first of all it is shorter, and it's also funny. It's funny that here comes the white horse. But it's not the white horse, it's a human being. So here comes the white horse is a Lakshyartha. So here, interestingly enough, look at this. The choice of using either a Lakshyartha or a Vachyartha is optional. Optional, you can do that. In the case of the identification of the self as a direct Lakshyartha, which is what Tattvamasi, the Mahavakya, the great sentence does not have the choice. Does not have the choice. We have to rely on Lakshyartha. And the Lakshyartha means that all of the conditions through which the Lakshyartha can be understood have to be understood by the people. So they must be very familiar with the setup. As we will see, all of this is coming. I'm just giving you the background for it. So here Swami Dayanandji used to say that, for example, adult jokes are not appreciated by, in fact, you can tell adult jokes amongst if the children are very, very young, because they won't get it. They won't get it. But if you have the background, if you're an adult, and you have seen sexual situations and stories and so on and so forth, then the adult joke makes sense to you. So there's a friend of mine that once told this joke. I'll give you this joke. Okay, so let's see if I'm sure that you will all understand it. So there was this couple, and so the wife saw a parrot, a talking parrot, in a shop. And she told her husband, "Oh, I love this. I would love to own a talking parrot who will say hi, a few words here and there." So the husband said, "Okay, but they're expensive because they have to be trained well and so on and so forth." She says, "Doesn't matter." So they went to a shop, and they saw this parrot. And the parrot, so they asked the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper says, "This is one of the best talking parrots that I have." Okay, but there is a sort of I just want to give you a story. The parrot used to be a house of ill repute. Well, they were prostitution. There were lots of prostitutes and so on. And so do you mind that? So they said, "Well, what difference does it make? It'll be fun," so on and so forth. So they brought the parrot home. And so the husband and wife, so the wife actually put it up. The husband had gone somewhere. So the wife put it in. Their daughters walked in. And the parrot said, "What a beautiful woman." So everybody thought, "Wow, this is so wonderful, that he's whistling at a beauty of a woman. And another daughter comes in, he did the same thing. Then the husband comes in and the parrot says, "Hi, Keith." So this is the adult joke. So it means that he was a frequent visitor to the same hub, and unbeknownst to his wife, he used to visit it. So this is the adult joke. Okay. So in this joke, what happens is that the people have to understand the background of the story. This is why we have to calibrate the background of the story. That here is a parrot, here's a woman, here's the house of ill repute, and here's this person that used to go there, not telling his wife, and it's a joke like that. The Mahavakya is exactly like that. In fact, the Mahavakya Tattvamasi ends up in a very good laughter. Very good laughter. This is one thing. Laughter means that the relief of the person is just amazing, just by understanding the meaning of that you are, Tattvamasi. The second thing is, this is what I want to emphasize, that in order to understand the Tattvamasi, you should have known all the factors. You should be very well educated. So in the case of this joke being effective, you should be an adult. If you give it to a 7-year-old boy or a girl, they won't understand it. They won't understand what a house of good repute is, what happens in those kinds of cases. Cheating on your wife, they don't understand any of those kinds of things. But if you were familiar with the background of it, then simply the word "Hi, Keith," you should just appreciate, wow, that is just an amazing thing. Somebody had made this joke. Similarly is the Tattvamasi. So here, now we can, with this background, we can study the next 3 or 4 verses. And so what they're saying is that there is in fact complete identity between Parameshwara and Jiveshwara, Paramatma and Jivatma. This is the identity, Tattvamasi. Tat meaning, we've already seen this by the way. So, Tat here means Jagataha, number 44, Jagataha yad upadanam mayam adaya tamasim nimittam shuddha sattvam tam uchyate brahma tatkira. So this is the definition of the Tat. And this definition of the Tat needs to be understood. Just like, for example, all the background of this funny story has to be understood in terms of what is a house of ill repute, etc., etc. Similarly here also. So the punchline here is an important thing to see. The Mahavakya will not be appreciated by a student who is not well educated. And a student who is not well educated into the circumstances surrounding this is like a child who has not yet grown up. So the words don't mean anything. You can say Tattvamasi to anyone. So that doesn't mean anything. What are you talking about? What is Tattvamasi? You are that. So the words don't are any different. But if it is done in the right manner at the right time, with a student who has developed a very good background on what is Tat, what is Tvam, what are the differences, and how can there be an equality? Swami Dayanand used to say that. It's a very beautiful thing to see, an important thing to see. He said, if you look at an equation, equation, if you just analyze the word equation, then, for example, 2 is equal to 8 is not an equation, because it is false. This is not true. Whoever wrote it down doesn't know what they're talking about, and this is not true. Also, an equation of 2 equals 2 is not an equation. It's very obvious. So the very task of writing 2 equals sign, 2 on left hand side, 2 on the right hand side, is a waste of time. However, 2 equals 8. I don't know if you have seen some of these television programs. My wife watches it because our granddaughters come now, and our direct conversation with them is now, we don't know what to talk to them about that will interest them. So what my wife has found out is that there are some very nice programs on television, and they are challenging to an 11 or 12-year-old person. So she records them ahead of time. And then when Arya and Sienna come, and then we have had dinner and so on, so what should we do? Then we play some rummy, cards, and so whatever. Then there's still time left over. Now there's still an hour to go. They haven't gone to sleep. So she pulls out these programs. And these programs, what is it called? Where they have youngsters who are given a challenge, and how well they remember. So they are given these kinds of things. 2 cubed plus 47 minus 23 plus this divided by 4, what is it? And then people have to, it's just amazing how their minds are so sharp, they are doing all the calculations while it is going on. Anyway, so an equation would be 2 is equal to 8 plus 4 divided by 6. This is an equation. Why is it an equation? Because it fulfills the following requirement. First of all, it should be true. If it is not true, then don't even attempt it. Secondly, the left hand side and the right hand side don't appear to be equal. On the left hand side is very simple, you write a 2. On the right hand side you said 8 plus this, 2 plus cube plus 4 divided by 2, something, something, something. And there, and in fact this is very interesting, there are more sophisticated equations. I'm sure that in college you have also gone through some of the, I remember going to a statistics class, numerical analysis class. And there were some really sophisticated equations that you have to solve. You have to break it down, and it's not easy to do, but if you knew how to do it, then you break it down and then prove at the end, QED, yes, this is true. Or in some cases they'll say, is it not true? And so you rack your brain, and then at the end of that you say, no, this is not true. That also is the right answer, because some of them can be true, some of them cannot be true. Did I ever tell you this? This is nothing relevant to this point, but when I was at Berkeley doing my master's in electrical engineering, so one time there was a joint project between EE and biology, molecular biology. So this Nobel Prize winner, Dr. Donald Glaser, was the professor. So I had almost finished my master's degree. I had to write some papers or something. So my advisor came to me and he says, I have an interesting proposition for you, because Dr. Donald Glaser is asking us to cooperate with him on a project, and this means that your master's degree will be delayed by 3 months, because this will be a thesis, master's thesis, not a PhD thesis. So, do you want to do it? And something came over me. I was anxious to start working and so on, but I said, okay, I'll do it. So Dr. Donald Glaser, um, remarkable person. I mean, I tell you, the brain of these Nobel Prize winner type of people is just amazing. And I'm just giving you a completely separate story from this. He was most impressive in making complicated things simple to understand. I remember that so well. Anyway, he gave us a story one time. He said that he was a student at Caltech. I think it was mathematics. So he was in math at Caltech. Caltech also is very well, as you know, is one of the top institutions. And so one time in this graduate course, the professor told, okay, this is the exam for you. This is the final exam. Please, he gave everybody a final exam. And he said, it's for 3 hours and there are six questions. And by the way, it is completely open book. The only thing I request is don't talk to each other, but consult any book you want to, whatever it is, doesn't make any difference to me. And I'm leaving to my office and I won't even be here. And then I'll come back after 3 hours and I'll collect your answers. Then the last thing he said before he left was, by the way, I would appreciate if you could save your scratchings on the paper as you are doing things, so forth. So everybody said, yeah, I don't know, that's a kind of a funny thing, you know, why do you want to, you want the final answer but not the scratchings? We just kind of casually mentioned, because he says, you know, I just want to see what you were doing and so on. So Dr. Donald Glaser said, okay, we all started. We started the first one, 5 minutes, made some notes to ourselves. 6-7 minutes have passed by, 10 minutes passed by, and we can't seem to find any way to do that. And after about 15-20 minutes, we got frustrated. We said, okay, let's go to the second question. At least the first one is gone. Second question, the same thing. And they're all looking at each other. No one is smiling. They all are frustrated. No one seems to be doing anything. 3 hours passed by. And he said, I am definitely going to fail this because I have not solved a single one of the equations. And the professor comes back and he says, well, what do you think? So they said, you are a torturer. What the heck did you do? None of the people has been to solve it. He says, I don't know if I'm a torturer or not, but here's the thing. I want you to staple all of your scratchings into and submit it to me. Congratulations, these are the 6 unsolved equations that exist in mathematics today. I didn't expect you to solve it. I just want to evaluate you on the basis of how you are approaching it. This is the story. I remember that so well. And he said, oh my goodness. And of course he's the inventor of the bubble chamber. If you look up in the Google and so on and so forth. Very enjoyable class. And interestingly, just to give you a punchline on this, the project that I was working on, after 3 months, I could not really, I had to figure out how to convert the E. coli into some kind of an identifiable thing. And I tried very hard with this pattern recognition, that, so on and so forth. It was same thing. I could not get it. So they said, it's okay. We'll give you a pass on this based on the fact that you had a good attempt at it. That's it. That's all. Anyway, going back to the equation. So the gist is that Swami Dayanand said so very well that 2 is equal to 2 is not an equation. So either the Shruti is like his professor at Caltech, where he gives you an unsolvable equation. Shruti wouldn't do that. Didn't do that. This is the traditional old equation. And the equation is this, that the human being and Ishvara are one and the same. So here, either the Shruti is bluffing us, and they wouldn't bluff, or it is not obvious, but I have to figure out how is this possible. And so one of the things to see, Swami Maheswaranji has been very, very clear on how to see this. What you see, the thing is that you can say, well, I don't want to be like, I don't want to have an identity with Ishvara. What difference does it make? I am what I am. I don't want to be that. Who wants to? Why should we even try? This is the objection that somebody can have. This objection is not true. We all want it. Why? Because I accept the fact that I am a conscious entity. So it is written in our Shastras that Ishvara also is a conscious entity. All creation comes from a conscious entity. All devices, all ideas, all creations cannot come from an inert object but from a conscious entity. I am a conscious entity. And so Ishvara is also a conscious entity because he has created something enormous, absolutely infinite in its scope and its beauty and its complexity and so on and so forth. So both of us are complex entities. But I can only, what is in Sanskrit says, alpagyaha, alpashaktiman. I only have a little bit of knowledge, I only have some power, where he is sarvashaktiman and sarvagyaha. And it is not possible for me to be that, nor do I think it is relevant for me. Why should I be that? I cannot be that. So the identity between Jivatma and Paramatma on the very surface of it looks ridiculous. Not so. Not so. Why not? Because if you analyze your life and what you want to do and what you want to be, how your behavior is, if you just analyze it, you will find that even though you are a conscious entity, but you also put down a number of limitations as part of the conscious entity. Like, for example, you say that I was born at such and such time as a conscious entity. I am very dependent on a number of things to be happy. If my health is not okay, I am not happy. If my spouse is upset with me, I am not happy. If I lose my job, I am not happy. If I lose my investment, so you have just a number of things that you have, and you don't like it. You are a conscious entity, but your limitations are surrounding you, and you're trying to ward them off here and there. It's like swatting flies. You try to do this, you go after your health, in the meantime you lose your job. You go after your job and the health becomes bad. All kinds of things. And so this is not true that you are okay the way you are. You're not okay the way you are. But you want to be okay the way you are. And ultimately, you cannot even imagine that even the worst case limitations like death also can be overcome. So therefore, the identity between Jivatma and Paramatma is not something theoretical. Then what? It means that I want to be like Ishvara, where none of the problems ever interfere with me. This is the definition of Ishvara. that he is the boss. No one bosses over him. There's no limitations, and he is totally happy. And I want to be like that. So it is really this aikyam, this identity between the Ishvara and Jiva is not something that I don't want, but I don't see it that way. In fact, the essence of this identity, this equation, is not as though you will become the all-powerful Ishvara. That will never become. And no need for you to become. No need for you to become. You're just, you're okay with just managing your own family and life and so on. Then, reminds me of this satsang that was held one time with Swami Dayanandji's in Piercy, where, people come up with funny things, and not funny, but, they make some statements. So I remember this woman, one American woman, and in the satsang asked Swamiji, you are a sadhu, a swami, and you don't really have any family responsibilities, and you don't have any worries. Now let me tell you about my life. I have 2 kids, and we don't have enough money, and we are struggling, and I am trying to balance and so on and so forth. But you, sir, you don't have any family, you don't have any worries. So her thesis was that I can never be like you, because I can study and so on and so forth, but I will always be surrounded by limitations, whereas you are already free. This was the thing. So it's very interesting. Swamiji usually does not raise his voice or get mad or something, and occasionally he would do it. And this was one of the times. And he said something like, "What are you talking about? Shall I tell you my life?" And so she said, "Okay." So Swamiji said, "Do you know how many people I feel responsible for? How many girls, women, who have left their families and they have clutched my feet and said, 'You are it. You are my father.' And the family is after me, saying, 'Send her back. We want her back.' And I am now torn between how to make sure that her..." So many cases like that. And he says, "I have so many people who depend on me for money." He says, "Do you know how big my family is? Do you have any idea? You've got 2 kids. I can't even count the number of people who are completely dependent on me. If I were to drown in..." He went on and on with this. And I don't know whether she got the message or not, but the rest of us who were listening certainly got the message. Yes, this is... So Swamiji's point is very interesting, that your limitations and your responsibilities are never going to end. And your being burdened by them is really false. It's a question of attitude. You just have to do your job and be the best you can and so on and so forth. Don't worry about it, and just look for, just make sure that you're pursuing the right attitude, the right actions, the right knowledge. That's all you can do. Don't waste your time in just worrying about small things that cannot be controlled by you. This is an important point. We will study this in more time, where the distinction, and I'm just repeating myself, the distinction between prarabdha karma and kamya karma means that karmas that are presented to you that you have not choice over is called prarabdha karma. And kamya karma means that you actually have a choice of either doing it or not doing it, and you pursue it with full attention, is called kamya karma. And we all need to very clearly understand the distinction between prarabdha karma and kamya karma. And what this means is, I don't know why I'm going through all this, it has nothing to do with what we are studying right here. So I don't know, hopefully we'll have time to go back to the original verses. It all started with the equation and our sense of responsibilities and so on. So anyway, completely, let me finish this topic. So this topic that we should understand is that if we understand the distinction between prarabdha karma and kamya karma, that is a very good way for me to move forward and make progress in my life. And it's really not that hard. Not that hard to do once you understand the thing. So there's 3 or 4 elements to it. One of them is that you have to accept Ishvara's creation. By accepting Ishvara's creation, you mean that everything is linked. Your previous life and this life is linked. Your this life and the next life is linked. What you did before would leave some vasanas and some samskaras. And what you're doing now, you are creating some new samskaras. So all of that is all linked and very structurally explainable. And so this you have to understand. That in fact there is an Ishvara. Things are happening because of an order, some kind of a structure. If you do that, then what you do is to simply look at what is happening to you, both good and bad, that you did not order. Unexpected things, unexpected results, good results or bad results, generally bad results. Good results, you just accept them, you embrace them. Bad results, you start thinking, where did this come from, what have I done, and so on. But so both of them. This is the sense of distinguishing between prarabdha karma and kamya karma. Kamya karma means that you are just sitting there and you are not doing something which is based on your observations. You start thinking about doing some new things. So now you have to ask yourself, why I'm starting something new? Is it something that will really help me in the future, and so on? So the prarabdha karma really in another ways in the Bhagavad Gita is a sense of duty. The sense of duty is very important. That means whatever falls to you, you do it without complaining. You just do it. And also keep new ideas to a minimum. Whatever you need to do, think over it before you do it. Because that's going to create brand new problems. So just be absorbed in tackling things that require you to respond, good or bad. If you're able to do this, I tell you, life becomes so happier. It's just amazing. In the beginning, you might find it onerous. But really speaking, as you go forward, you find this is a great way for us to take care of it. Anyway, the reason I went into this tangent was about the Swamiji saying, do you know what kind of a family situation that I have? That it's not as though I want to adopt students who have left their homes and so on and so forth. But in what I'm doing, I have walked into a situation where people want my help, and I will do the best I can to do so. And so if you do that, you find that the worry is gone because they are all sent to him by Ishvara. And he has to respond as a duty to Ishvara. And each one of us can take that cue in our lives. And we can also just do the best we can, bringing Ishvara into our life. Winking at him and saying, I don't know what you're trying to do to me here. Because this is the fact. It really is a fact. It's not you're not pretending or anything like this. It's an absolute fact. And what you find is that if you do that, then you have a great companion helping you. You let go of the sense of responsibility and worry and so on and so forth. And you are engaged in actions that are consistent with your growth. This is the way, this is the message of the Bhagavad Gita, this is the message of Vedanta. So anyway, to close off to what we were saying, it's not as though the Jivatma wants to become Paramatma. In fact, the accurate way to do this is to say it's not that the Jiva wants to be Ishvara, but the Jivatma wants to remove all of the limitations that he or she is fighting. And that can only be done by understanding that you are already that, you don't get it. It's just exactly like a room space saying, I don't like this room. Yes, the space is the Chidatma. But the upadhis, all the other perceived limitations, are just is a false conclusion that that's me. In fact, the only thing that you are is your space, and space by itself has no limitation. So by understanding this, you are free. You don't have to get the walls down or anything like this. You enjoy it actually. So therefore, to close off, it is not to say that I want to be like I don't want to be like Ishvara. I do want to be like Ishvara because I want the limitlessness of Ishvara to be me. And so, therefore, the Aikyam is is very relevant for me to understand. It is not irrelevant. That's all I was saying. Okay, now let's go back to the text itself. Wow, so much time has been spent on this. So there, in verse number 46, which we did last time, we'll start with that so that we have a foundation that we have already done, and we'll take off from there. So it says, Tritayim apitam muktva paraspara virodhinim akhandam satchidanandam mahavakyena lakshyate. So here the key operative word is lakshyate. So lakshyate means a indirect understanding, not a direct understanding. Just like in the ones, here comes a white horse, is what is called a Lakshana Vakya. And the Lakshana Vakya means you have to go beyond the obvious. You not start looking for white horse. Where is the white horse? I don't see any white horse. I see a person. Yes, if you understand what kind of a drinking person he is and what kind of a whiskey he likes and how he goes to happy hours and spends so much time getting drunk, then to call him a white horse will be appropriate. This is what is called a Lakshana Vakya. Lakshyate, natu iti vachyate. So in fact, interestingly, uchyate, if you look at the Sanskritam in the last 3 or 4 verses, number 43, the last word is lakshyate. In number 44, uchyate, tam uchyate. Then in number 45, it is uchyate. And number 46, it is lakshyate. So make a note of this. Uchyate means direct meaning. Lakshyate means indirect meaning. And the direct meaning has to be understood by the student in order to appreciate the indirect meaning. Like the adult joke. So the context has to be completely understood. Only then Lakshana Vakya can work. So in the case of, so now to close off this, in the case of the white horse, as I mentioned, the speaker had a choice of either be direct or indirect. In the case of the Atma, Shruti has no such choice. Why not? It should be very well understood. Because Atma, me and you, is a unique entity. This is a unique entity. Let's see how. It is the only entity in the whole world where it is present but not seen or observable. The entire Jagat, the entire cosmos consists of things that are observable. Observable means that through either it can be seen or could be heard or can be, you can think about it, or it can be touched, or it can be felt, it could be smelled, anything. The panch indriyas. So sukshma and the sthula and all of those, this is what the whole world is all about. And if you cannot see something or feel something or touch something, then the thing should not be there. No. That litmus test fails for the Atma. Atma is there, but not seen or observed as an object. It's a unique thing. It's only one thing in the whole world. And in fact, furthermore, the only thing that is there, in fact, is the Atma. So you see, here's the thing. This is very interesting. You go from finding the Atma as an object around the whole world, or in thinking and discussing, and this is how religions are born. Yeah, I think I have an idea of what God is and how to do that. You do all of that, and yet you cannot find it. Yet you cannot find it. And so you find a infinite number of things, but Atma cannot be found in that groupings of infinite number of things. And when you do find it, you find that the infinite number of things disappear. They get dissolved into this Atma. First of all, it was not there at all. In the meantime, you have a sense of where it is, and in the end, only Atma remains. This is our journey. This is what we have to traverse. And it's the truth. It's like a magic, but truthful. So therefore, the Atma is not something that could be uchyate, that cannot be directly pointed out as an object. What can be pointed out are the upadhis of the Atma. So the upadhi is a technical word, I think you all know it by now, but just to remind you of it, the word upadhi means something that has the ability to influence the understanding of something else without being true. This is called upadhi. It's a long definition. Now, let me give you an example. So the example that we've been doing is the walls in this room are the upadhi. The walls are an upadhi to space. Because why? Because the walls have the ability to make a change in space without really making a change in space. It seems to divide it. Seems to. It doesn't really divide. It's not as though you have this room space that you are now taking away from the space. So there was 100%, and now you take the room space 1%, only 99% is left. No. There's no division. And yet it divides. One of the favorite examples that in addition to lots of examples like this, I think one of the most important examples are that if you have a crystal which has the ability to reflect the things sitting close to it. So there, if you put a red flower next to the crystal appears red. If you put a yellow flower next to it, the crystal becomes yellow. So the yellow flower and the red flower are the upadhis. So the definition of upadhi is an entity that has the ability to influence the perception of reality of something else. It's called upadhi. Kind of complicated definition, but that's a truthful definition of it. So, upadhis are subject to being directly pointed out. Uchyate. So when you say uchyate, that means it is directly pointing it out. Upahita, the technical word called upahita. Upahita means one which is influenced by the upadhi. One which is apparently limited by the upadhi is called upahita. Upahita may or may not be indicated directly. Like, for instance, in these two examples that I gave, which is this crystal which appears to be either one color or the other, there even the upahita can be directly pointed out. You can even touch it, isn't it? The crystal is also an object. Crystal is an object, and you can see it. So both the upadhis as well as the upahitas, you don't need to do lakshana. You can say uchyate for that. In the case of the room space, however, the space cannot be seen. Even that also you can see to some more subtle degree, but not seen as an object. So if you were to talk to some child, it'd be interesting to take a 2-year-old child who's just struggling with identifying things, and he says, "Hey baby, you know where space is?" Provided they can talk a little bit, understand. He says, "Nope, I know where space is. But do you know that this room is this big?" And the baby will say, "Yeah, it's this big, I can understand it." "Do you see the bathroom is smaller?" And the baby can say, "Yeah, the bathroom." So the bathroom space is smaller than this classroom space, and the baby can understand that. Do you know that the space is the same between the two of them? Now the baby will break down and say, "I don't know what you're talking about, because I don't see any space." And so in that case, you have to use lakshana. You cannot uchyate, it has to be lakshyate. I'm just making that example up. That's not the perfect example for a lakshana, but something gets that closest to it. But in the case of the Atma, see, this is where the Mahavakya is necessary. The Lakshana Vakya is necessary. It is not an option. Why is it not an option? Because what is Lakshyate cannot be Uchyate, cannot be directly pointed out. In fact, it is the very content of all my experiences. It is not experienced, but it is the content of all my experiences. And so that has to be pointed out by getting the right setup done, by pointing out until your mind cannot escape and say, yes, that is a possibility. So this is what is being pointed out here. This is the methodology being used. So here now in number 46 now we can summarize this point. Tritayim api tam muktva paraspara virodhinim akhandam satchidanandam mahavakyena lakshyate. So he says that Tritayim api paraspara virodhinim upadhis. What were the upadhis? Number 44 was upadana karanam tamasim shuddha sattvam, which is sattva, tamas and sattva. So this belonged to Ishvara. And then malina sattva was done in number 45. And the malina sattva, which is kama karma karmadi dushitam, which is the defect of the human being is that it is within the confines of desire and action. So avidya kama karma. So that kind of a person is you can, in one way, I'm just giving you one example, that you can say that a small room which is completely at the mercy of the walls, who wants to be a bigger room, he gets himself, the rooms get cut, he gets to a bigger room, still a room. So this is the human being. We, no matter how much progress we make, we are still a limited being. It will never become an unlimited being. This is the upadhi of the human being. And the upadhi of Ishvara is the very creative power. So both the upadhis are there. So this is the three. Tritayim means the threefold, the three types. Tritayim api tam muktva. If you now go beyond these three upadhi that are paraspara virodhini. Paraspara virodhini means that mutually exclusive. That's a good English translation. What does it say? Yeah, muktva. They are mutually exclusive. Means if one is there, then the other is not there. The other one is there, the one is not there. So in doing that, what remains is the akhandam satchidanandam mahavakyena lakshyate. So this is indicated by the mahavakya. What is the common between them is the satchidanandam. Ishvara also, the upadhi of the Ishvara is based on satchidanandam. The upadhi of the jiva is also based on satchidanandam. That's why the equation remains. And in the next verse he will again talk about that yo ayam ityadi vakyeshu saha ayam. So saha ayam in number 47. In fact, let's just do that. So then I think that's all the time we will have to finish this. Saha ayam ityadi vakyeshu virodhat tad idantayoho tyagena bhagayoho ekaha ashrayah lakshyate yatha. So saha ayam. So ayam means this and saha means that. Between that and this, because of the contradictions between them, you remove the contradictions. So the story we said last time also, and Swami Maheshanji was pointing this out, that there was a big businessman in Calcutta, and he was doing very well. He was dressed like a businessman with tie and coat and so on and so forth, and then he was clean shaven and very smart, and he had a driver for his car who would open and so some people knew him as somebody. Then about 5-6 years later, they saw a fellow in some kind of a religious place, and this person had flock of hair and a big beard, and was wearing completely different clothes altogether, unrecognizable. And somebody would tell, let's say Swami Maheshananji, Swamiji, you know this guy that you see on the front right here? He says, yes. You know who he is? He says, no. It is that guy that you met in Calcutta 5 years ago. And Swamiji says, oh my God, yes. I see he's got a lot of beards and hair, and now he's got this mala that he's wearing, and he's wearing ochre clothes. He looks like he's become a sadhu. He's the same guy. He says, sir, he took sannyasa. His wife was really bothering him, and he decided to. He says, "The heck with it, I'm quitting." And he's sitting now here as these. That's him. So here, what happens is, so just look at it. Saha ayam. Ayam means this, and saha means that. So that is this. Ityadi vakyashu, in such sentence mean. Then because of the contradictions, virodhat, tad idantayoho. Idam means this, or ayam, idam or ayam is the same. And tayoho means, tayaha means, tam means that. Because of the contradictions. So therefore, in order for a person to recognize it is the same person, what do you have to do? What you have to do is either you mentally remove his beard and all these kinds of things and imagine him like the other person, or you remove the coat and tie from the other person and imagine him as this person. The best thing is you have a person. And whether he's wearing a coat and tie or he's wearing a sadhu clothes and so on, you just remove them. And you look at him as a same person. Very similarly to that. So this is the lakshyate. So what is uchyate here are the contradictory upadhis. And what is lakshyate is the sameness between those two. So similarly, he says in number 48, Maya vidye vihaya evam upadhi parajivayoho akhandam satchidanandam param brahma eva lakshyate. So you remove the Maya Upadhi. And what is the Maya Upadhi? That was given in number 44. Jagataha yad upadanam mayam adaya tamasim. And even you can include the second line of that. Nimittam Shuddha Sattvam Tam Uchyate Brahma. So here is just looking at the ignorance part of it. So Maya is one, and avidya. So this becomes in the grammar of Sanskrit, this becomes Maya and avidya. So it becomes Maya Vidya. It's a dual form. It's a dual form. So Maya with avidya. Vihaya. So avidya refers to what? Malina Sattva of verse number, what is it? 45. 45. Yada Malina Sattva. So Malina Sattvam is the upadhi of the jiva. And the Maya is the upadhi of Ishvara. So you both of them you remove. It is kind of like two things that are just creating a wrong impression. So in the case of the businessman also, all these suited booted things and so on and so forth, that made him look like a very formal kind of a person. You remove that. He's just a simple body. And you remove all the hair from him and all of the malas and so on and so forth, and maybe a turban and so on. Remove that from him. He's still the same person. He might have aged by about 5 years, but he's pretty much the same person. So Maya Vidya Vihaya Evam Upadhi Parajivayoho. So the upadhis of the Paramatma and Jivatma, what is left is Akhandam Satchidanandam Param Brahma Eva Lakshyate. So because there is something which is holding both of them. So something which is holding means that there was this Mr. Devadatta who was holding a certain vision of himself as a very successful businessman. And the same person is now holding the vision of himself as a sadhu. Neither the sadhu is him, nor the Mr. Devadatta is him. He is just him. So similarly here also, the Satchidanandam Param Brahma Eva Lakshyate. So therefore, this is what is called Bhagatyaga Lakshana. Bhagatyaga Lakshana, as we saw, is not throwing the baby with the bathwater. You simply remove the dissimilarities and keep the similarity. And so then, Akhandam Satchidanandam Brahma. So we will continue with that. So one last thing. So Akhandam means one which is, Khanda means parts. Desiccation of parts, some kind of not desiccation. What is the word? The making different parts out of it. The cutting into different parts. You can say khandam. Okay. So Sat, Chit, Ananda are not three. So the Atma is not made out of three parts, which is Sat and Chit and Ananda. It's not a combination of three completely separable parts, no. It is the same thing which is known from three different aspects. So that's why it is called Akhandam. Akhandam means Khandarahitam, partless. And so we will go into more in detail of that. But anyway, so you can see now how the Mahavakya works. So in summary, the Mahavakya works because the Akhandam Brahma is not possible to be pointed out in any other way. This is a unique entity in the whole creation, and it can only be pointed out by removing the unnecessary upadhis that are clouding my vision. Once the upadhis are clearly removed, then my reality that I am the Satchidananda, which is the same reality as the Parameshwara, becomes very clear. This is the process of the Tattvamasi, and then perhaps we will maybe when I come back, we will do a meditation on this also, so you can sort of see a little bit, because these are just words at the moment, but hopefully we will spend some time on it and understand it a little bit better. So that is the text, that is the topic of the text as it is being done here. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Namaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityo Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. In the doing all of this, I forgot to turn this on, so I'm going to have to borrow the sound from Raj. I think he can extract it from the video. So apologies for that. Anyway, any questions about today's class?
Remove both identities, and you will end up with Sat or Brahman. But it doesn't say how.
Yeah, so it's by following the logical steps. Like, for example, the logical steps are that you have to see the very form of Atma and the very form of Anatma, the Swarupa of the Atma, the distinction between one that does not change and the Swarupa of the Anatma, which never remains the same, is continuously changing. So you have to follow the logic of that. So like that, you do a lot of steps. This is what is called yukti, meaning all of the logical steps you have to do. So, so that just means a thorough study of how the Shastra is presenting the material and following it, asking questions, thinking about it. That's how you will see that, how you remove one from the other. Yeah. So we are at the 46th verse, and I think we have 67 altogether. And the next about 3 or 4, maybe 5, 6 verses are kind of somewhat difficult. So we'll have to deal with it. And that, like what happens in following the text, it's kind of like flowing of a river, because sometimes it is it hits some rocks and there are eddy currents, and sometimes it's very smooth, sometimes there is a lake, it just becomes very still, sometimes it flows. So similarly also there are differences in each of the verses. But overall, I think this is a good chapter. This is why I chose it. It's a very good chapter as an overview. And what we will do is a revision of the entire chapter after we have finished it. So we will do it very quickly in about 4 or 5 weeks. So you get a sense of the elements of it, how it is flowing, how is it presented. But then more importantly, I think you have to do it yourself. After a while, it takes a couple of tries, maybe even more, to really absorb the basic elements of the Vidya. And so do it again after a while. Either listen to the same ones or just look at your own notes. And as I mentioned to you, it will be very useful if you can find someone to teach. And then you can, when you teach, then you make sure that you yourself are so clear that answers can be given. So this is a good foundation, backed of course by Tattvabodha, in case you have any doubts about Atma and Anatma and all those kinds of things that Shilpa was just asking about. So with these two books as the foundation, and once you are clear about the foundation, then study of Upanishads and others becomes much more effective in that manner. So this is an important text to go through. We're about 2/3 on our way through already. So, yeah.
When you're talking about Kamya Karma for Jiva, there is this desire prompted, and then the Malan Sattva is also, both are desire prompted, born out of ignorance.
They're pretty much the
Perception.
same. They're the same, yeah. Malina Sattva and Kamya Karma. So the the Swarupa of that, where is that desires are born because I don't know what else to do. They are just born in me, and then I have to satisfy it. It is kind of like a thorn in my skin somewhere. So you have to remove the thorn, otherwise it will be there. Desires are like thorns, and so you remove it. But then it's not done. You're not saying, okay, I'm finished with it, no more. It just keeps coming up. So it's like continuous symptoms. And also, this is why I tried to make a distinction between the prarabdha karma and kamya karma. The basic assumption that we have is that desires are essential for me to live. And this is where we took the example. Was it in this class or was it in a different class about the breath? Was it this class? That's why this is such a beautiful example, really. That breathing, which is one of the most important actions for us, is not desire prompted, unless you have a big problem. But for 99% of the cases, one of the most important actions that are happening are without your desire. So therefore, it is not true that I must have a series of desires in order to make progress in my life. And in fact, what happens is that the discovery of the Atma, the understanding of the Atma, doesn't come suddenly. The understanding, the possibility of it is entertained, yes, but to see it as a reality doesn't happen right away. So what will happen is that right now you and I are just completely absorbed in gaining a sense of happiness by fulfilling our desires. This is what happens. And we are not daunted by the desires not giving us satisfaction, because we say it doesn't matter, we'll try it again. And because part of the reason is we don't know what else there can be. But there is an alternative. And that alternative is that if you just observe the source of joy, and what you find is that it is really from you, not from outside. So, for example, I was listening to some music on my iPod on coming here, It was so pleasant that I had some joy in my mind just listening to the iPod music, some classical Indian music. And what I could feel was that this joy, all that the music did was to invoke the joy in me. It's not as though that I have to eat the joy from the iPod. Nothing like that. The source of joy is myself. So any one of the lovers of music who is trained to listen to some good music invokes their own joy. This is a common joy for all of us. And whether or not you invoke your joy by listening to music is entirely up to you. If you study music, if you study classical music, and it takes a long time to appreciate it, then as soon as you hear it, your heart melts. And that melting of the heart is common to all of us, which is Ishvara. So therefore, slowly, as we begin to observe that it is a complete nonsense that I have to have fulfillment of desires outside in order to be happy. Complete nonsense. But this nonsense is not readily available until I work at it. And then slowly, slowly you start observing, my goodness, I am... And what makes it even more difficult is that if you do have some strong desires and they get fulfilled, you get a lot of joy. So it interrupts your logic. But the eventual logic is that you are much more involved in just appreciating the very swarupa of yourself. And that takes a little while, but then slowly it becomes clearer and clearer. And as it does, your knocking around trying to find joy outside diminishes. There's a complete reversal that takes place. So then the kamya karmas become less and less effective, and if there are some unpleasantness because of certain happenings, because of the prarabdha karma, then your insulation is there. The sting of it just goes. You just go through it, pain, suffering, whatever it is, but your joy remains basically intact. And so this is how you transform from a life of kama karma, which is malina sattva, into something which is satchidananda, which is the very swarupa of yourself. This is how it happens. Yeah.
So on verse 46, we talk about three type of prakriti. So it tamasi, Suddha Sattva and Malin Sattva.
Correct.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yes, those are the three. Yeah. All right. So you are free for a while. I don't know, when do we meet? We meet on like 21st or something like that. Because I'd get back on Thursday, and so the next class will be Saturday. Then the following Tuesday we will meet, whatever that is.